First up, the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Darby.
I believe Dr. Gagne has some 8th graders to lead us in the pledge tonight.
I'm very pleased to have two exceptional 8th grade leaders in our school who will come lead us in the pledge. We have Claire Morgan and Alex Comfort.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have a moment of silence. Could you bow your heads, please? Thank you. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. Do I have any comments or questions?
I've got one, Madam Chairman.
Okay, yes, sir.
I would like under the policy changes, policy D, 6.313 spectators, to send that back to policy committee because that is not what our middle school principals are wanting. So I'd like to send it back. The way it is worded, they would have to have parents for their own kids to attend their own games. So I'd like to send that back.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda. Do we have any comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have Ms. Darby and then seconded by Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a special guest with us, Ms. Darby.
Dr. Gagne with Thurman Francis Arts Academy. If you want to come to the podium and introduce our special guest this evening.
This is a very proud moment for me. If you take a look at these students, this is the reason why we're here. This is the future of Rutherford County. We have exceptional students who do exceptional things, and I'm so proud of them. Tonight, our chorus will be singing America and America the Beautiful, and then our strings will be doing Mozart's Symphony 40. 40 is correct, is that right? Number 40, there we go. I'll let the music expert keep me in line on that. But again, I'm very proud to be able to serve with these students. This is the reason why we're here. Amazing group of kids who believe in what they do, and we believe in them. And so without further ado, I'm going to let them perform.
give them just a minute to make their way. Is that everybody? That it? As soon as everyone gets situated, we'll move to the next part of our meeting.
Wish I'd brought my popcorn machine.
Yes, yes, please. There's a few more chairs up here at the front. There's just a few more chairs here at the front if you all standing at the back would like to come up front. Okay, hopefully everybody's situated now. Next, we move on to the next part of our meeting, which is public comment, and we have 10 speakers. First up, we have Ms. Lindsay Schultz. You have 3 minutes.
Dear Rutherford County School Board members, my name is Lindsay Schultz. I'm the owner of the Spine Bookshop here in Smyrna, Tennessee. And I stand before you today to express my opposition to the ongoing book banning. And I've been listening to the disrespectful comments that have been made to you board members, as well as the differing opinions that have been shared. However, there is an essential issue that must be addressed, and that's the profound impact books have had on individuals who experience trauma. As a survivor of a violent sexual assault that resulted in a black eye and stitches in my face, I personally understand the power of literature in helping individuals process and heal from traumatic experiences. Books were crucial in helping me navigate my trauma, teaching me that I was not alone and that the assault did not define me. Removing these books that you label pornographic and filth will deprive others of the solace and healing that they so desperately need. Books that address difficult topics provide essential tools for recognizing and discussing trauma, empowering both our children and adults to protect themselves and to communicate their experiences to people that can help them. By restricting access to these invaluable resources, you are doing way more harm than good, and ignoring the existence of the traumatic events does not make them disappear. It only makes people like me feel more alone and helpless. And instead of banning these books, let's embrace them as educational tools to facilitate very important conversations and foster understanding. Books that reflect diverse experiences and address sensitive topics like sexual assault are crucial for cultivating empathy and resilience. They help us navigate the complexities of life and remind us that we can overcome even the most challenging circumstances. And at the end of the day, everyone has a right to access these books. It's up to the parents, respectfully, not the school board, to make the decisions and restrict their children's reading material. We need to trust our librarians with the education that they've earned to correctly cultivate a reading curriculum for our children instead of trying to politicize it. Parents have access to the reading list that their children are given so that they have the information as well, which offers the parents the opportunity to choose what their children are allowed to read. And I implore you to recognize the life-changing power of literature by keeping these books accessible to people like myself. Let's work together to ensure that those who need them most can find comfort, guidance, and hope within the pages. And please remember, the world is watching you.
Thank you. Next up we have Joy Warren.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to bring you greetings from Public School Strong, a statewide campaign advocating for honest, equitable, fully funded, safe public schools. We have 28 chapters and growing across the state from Greenville to Memphis. My name is Reverend Joy Warren, a local minister and parent of 2 recent graduates of Rutherford County Schools. I began watching school board meetings in 2020 as we were all watching to see the difficult decisions that you had to make during the COVID pandemic. One thing that I truly appreciate about these meetings is the way you feature the amazing things going on in our schools. In your Rutherford Proud or Rutherford Strong moments, I have learned about Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence, award-winning musical groups and choirs, interesting ag and CTE programs, exciting challenges like the Amazing Shake and BizTown, innovative pathways to teaching like the Grow Your Own program, skilled teamwork displayed in our group and individual sports programs, fantastic dedication and accomplishments in our JROTC programs. There are so many things that happen in our schools that cause us to have pride in our district. I appreciate how each one of you invite students and groups to participate in these sessions so that you can highlight the awesome things that are happening here in Rutherford County Schools. I want us to keep all these programs and awards in mind As we consider that the very first bill filed for the 2025 legislative session is a revival of the voucher bill we defeated earlier this year. I was so proud that this board worked together to pass a strong resolution against those vouchers. I met with legislators in other areas of the state and found that they support you and agree with you. In fact, over 70 school boards across the state passed resolutions against the vouchers. Rural, urban, it was clear that no one besides out-of-state agitators wants this program. We worked together to defeat the voucher bill last legislative session, and we will do it again. Public School Strong is asking our county commission to make their own resolution in support of yours to let our legislators and governor know that we stand united with you to protect our school funding and these wonderful programs that bring joy, enrichment, and hope to our students and wider community. Thank you for what you do as advocates for public schools, and congratulations, Dr. Sullivan, on your recent award. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Miss Elizabeth Shepard.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you all tonight. I'm here as a parent of a student attending Blackburn High School and also as an educator with over 10 years' experience as a school librarian. Tuesday morning, my phone started buzzing with the first text from fellow librarians sharing their shock over an email that went out to the middle and high school librarians. Everyone was trying to make sense of what was happening. Their fear, confusion, and frustration were evident in every single conversation I had that day. Librarians had to drop everything they were doing. No more checking books in and out, no answering questions or assisting with research, not able to do the jobs they love to do. Some even had to shut down their libraries for the day. Instead, they had to make their first priority book removal, not just taking them off the shelves, but also taking them out of the hands of students, a process that is literally heartbreaking as a librarian. Imagine those students being made to feel as though they did something wrong, being called out of class and forced to turn over their library book, having to explain to their friends what just happened, wondering if they can trust their librarian anymore or if their library is still a safe place. This occurred due to the absence of clear policy concerning a new development in the state law on what is age appropriate for library materials. To be fair, board policy already has in place a solid, fair, and well-designed process for addressing book complaints, except it seems when it comes to this new uncharted situation. I watched the board discuss postponing the creation of new policy until clarification came from the state, yet board members pushed ahead and submitted over 150 titles that in the absence of clear board policy were immediately removed from library collections with nothing but a claim that they violate this new law. By this logic, any parent, student, or school employee could do the same. We could potentially end up with nothing on the shelves for our students to read if we're willing to allow one person with a list to hold our books and libraries hostage. Absence of clear policy does not make these actions fair or just to our students. Did you know it takes an average of 8 hours to read or listen to a chapter book cover to cover? If you devoted 1 8-hour day to each book on this list, you'd be spending the next 5 months doing nothing but reading. Not to mention the time you need on top of that to evaluate what you've read and make a determination. Are you, as the ones who have the final say, prepared to put in that time to give each of these books the careful attention they deserve? Investing in every student, every day. That's the new mission statement you're approving tonight. How is denying students the right to read books investing in them? If we remove every book where characters don't look or act like a few people think they should, are we really investing in every student? This list and others like it are a waste of the county's time and resources. I'm asking for the board to develop a clear policy to address this as soon as possible so we can all get back to investing in every student every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Amber Sky Milushnich. I'm not sure I said it right. Sorry.
It's Amber Sky Milusnich, and I am a local author here in Rutherford County, a mom of 4, and the wife of a public school teacher. I also have a story as an author of a little girl who didn't have her biological father because he left when she was an infant, who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And then as time grew up and I found books in my public library, like Impulse and Crank by Ellen Hopkins, that had this content in them, I found myself thinking, this is all I'm good for, is this pornographic material. And so after I would read sections like this, I would sneak out of my bedroom in the middle of the night and look stuff up online and talk to people online who I shouldn't have been. I'm pretending to be an adult, slipping down a path that said, I am worthless, and this is all that I'm good for. These books do try to address some traumatic events to help people who don't quite understand what is going on, but they can cause more harm than good. That story is my story, but it's not actually my story because it's Jesus' story, and this is not the end of my story. Everyone knows John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have a life, eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and the people loved the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. But whoever does what is true comes to light, so that it may be clearly seen that his works have been carried out in God. I was one who hated the light and loved the darkness. It was not until I had a mentor come into my life who loved me enough to let me hate her and tell me the things that I was doing, the things that I was reading were wrong, that I came to repentance and came to know the light, and the truth set me free. Is it appropriate for children to be able to read these materials? That choice needs to be given to the parents. If these books are in the school boards, if these books are in our school libraries, kids can go behind their parents' backs to check them out. We don't want to restrict books. These books are in our public libraries, they are in bookstores. They're important to have. It's good to have freedom of the press. But letting parents have the choice of what their kids can access in a children's-only area only makes sense. Heck, when Blockbuster was still around, they had a little room to the side that was for adults only. That's what we're asking for. I don't want students to go into our libraries and be able to just pick up a random book and flip through this and then feel the shame.
Thank you. Next up, we have James Olexa.
Before I, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you.
Before I start my time, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing, Lindsay, and it was Eleanor, right? Amber, I'm sorry. I know that that's hard to share, and I don't think anybody needs to go through that, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. So first off, I just want to share that. I'm obviously here to talk about the book ban. I think that we need to pull the curtain back on this just a little bit, just to make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. I think that there's a lot of talk about this being politically charged, and it is, right? And I think people who argue that, they're correct, right? People want to hide this under the guise that it's a First Amendment violation to ban the books. Ironically, there's organizations such as the ACLU who fight for this to be not a thing, to not ban the books, right? But that's the same organization that's they're extremely progressive in their ways. On their website, the first thing that pops up is donate to our campaign. We want to promote abortion rights, we want to promote trans rights, and all those things, right? And so this is politically charged, and so I don't want anybody to think that it's not, right? This is beyond just right and wrong. But looking at a couple of things, I want to share a couple of quotes here. So first off, from the W7V News from Stan Vaught, I don't want my tax dollars, nor yours, nor anybody else's, to go to defend a frivolous lawsuit if we can avoid it. I do not think that shielding children from sexually explicit material is frivolous. I completely deny that, and I reject that claim. This matters, and this matters for children. And I think that in the case of children who are subjected to terrible things, that there are other ways besides books where they are not supervised to find help for that matter. Stan also went to argue that the removal of these books, it almost reminds me of 1930s Germany just a little bit, where if we pull them out of our libraries, where are we going to pull them out next? So you mean to tell me that the filtering of sexually explicit books is resemblant of Nazi Germany? And are you willing to stand by that as you oppose the members who vote to remove these books? A further quote, I can't tell parents how to raise their children. I'm not going to. It's not my job. And you're absolutely correct. But on weekdays, children spend more of their waking hours at school than with their parents. So it's an issue of the welfare of these children is 100% within your job responsibility, and saying that it's not is wrong. Furthermore, the First Amendment does not prevent school officials from determining that the permission of sexually explicit language and vulgar or lewd speech undermines the school's basic educational mission. Additionally, the First Amendment also does not permit a teacher or librarian to introduce sexually explicit material to children. That is and always should be the express right of the parents. Lastly, to conclude, I'm here to advocate for the removal and prevention of books that contain sexually explicit material. I do not wish to censor material relating to highly controversial historical items such as slavery, racism, or politics. But I know that if we are to continue removing books, I think beyond a yes vote is deserved.
Thank you.
A justification for why, because a yes is not enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Zan Lasko.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a retired high school librarian from Rutherford County Schools, as I've stated before. And let me just first say that every parent at every school in this county has the right and enjoys that right to go and decide what their kids can read. They just have to have a discussion with the librarian. That's always been the rule. Just saying. After watching the work session on Tuesday night, there are questions about comments made that I believe need to be answered before sweeping judgment is made on 150 books. Some of these were taken out of the hands of students, which is really sad. First, where did the list come from? It is my understanding that Mrs. Rosales was the member who forwarded the list, but I'm asking, where did she get the list? More importantly, who produced the list and what are the motives and or training of the person who made such a list? I can tell by looking at the list, whomever it is, has not read these books. There are books that are on the list that will not meet the Tennessee code that was used to remove them. For example, this book, Heroine, by Minnie McGinnis, an author who came to see our high school students last year. She's wonderful, and the kids love her. This is a homonym. She is the heroine of this book. She had a tragic addiction because she had an accident in a car, and she becomes the light for kids later on. There's no sexually explicit material in this. There's also a high percentage of LGBTQ books on this list. Why is that? Second, how many of these 150 books have been read or will be read before the December 5 meeting? If you want your constituents to trust you, then you must use due diligence. When a list is put forth and the book has not been read or even looked at, you are doing a disservice. Third, it was mentioned that librarians could use a website to check the excerpts to judge a book. As I stated in September, this is not how librarians vet books. This is not best practice, and this district has employed professional librarians. In addition, books on these websites are generally old. These are not new releases. Books being ordered with the mature content on the cover was also brought up. I've never seen a book or heard of a book that came to a school like that. If so, you'd likely see that same way in bookstores. And finally, a comment was made that members of the board heard a representative during the recent retreat state that Tennessee will continue with this until they are sued. If the state wants to continue in this manner, then this is one thing. However, our students, librarians, staff, and taxpayers will be the ones harmed if there is a protracted lawsuit against our district. Is that how the board wants to spend our dwindling budget? The Textbook Commission can take up these books if the board doesn't decide in 60 days. Why not let them do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Robert Brooks.
Hello and good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wasn't going to talk about this tonight. I was going to talk about something totally different, but I just can't get away from this book thing because as I'm standing in the back of the room, a friend texted me and said, I am absolutely pissed. And I'm like, from what? Like, what's going on? And she tells me about this book that her daughter has to read in a class in one of our public schools. And she looks it up and she gets the information and it talks about foreplay. Now, my friend is a very devout Christian, Christ follower, and of course she immediately tells her daughter, no thank you. But the problem is we continue to have these problems, and the problem starts right here at these tables. Thank you, Mrs. Rosales, for submitting the 150 books, but I believe that just created more of a mess. We talk about being together as a community, but that does nothing for the community. You talk about wanting to do things to keep everybody together, but it continues to cause division. So what I did was, I went to your policies, and I don't know how many of you have checked out your board member policies, but you should go to the website and look at them, especially you guys that are new. Okay, so here's policy 1.102, and at the bottom, it has this thing that you're sworn in with. It says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Tennessee, and the laws governing the operation of the Rutherford County school system, and that I will faithfully, zealously, and impartially discharge the duties of a member of the Rutherford County Board without fear or favor and for the public welfare. Well, my friends, I hate to tell you, remember there was this big chatter about this being the first Republican board, right? And so we stand as a party of Republicans and we're supposed to do things right, but you don't enact on the law and you don't put it at the forefront. That is not upholding the Constitution of our great nation, and it's definitely not holding to the laws and the Constitution of our great state. Shame on you. It is your job to protect these kids. There's no way that my daughter is in a public school and is able to check out a book that talks about people doing things to animals. Are you kidding me?
Please, no
Please be
comments.
respectful. I was respectful when you...
No comments from the gallery.
You want a policy? Put it in place. The law, the state law, they've given it to you already. Just put it in and do what you need to do. Stop skating around this thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have Brian Schuster.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brian Schuster. I and those wearing white tonight are concerned parents and members of the community who want the purity and innocence of our children protected in our schools. On Tuesday, as it's been mentioned, Ms. Rosales submitted a request for 150 books to be reviewed and voted on for removal from our district. This is surprising in light of the fact that she withdrew herself from voting on sexually explicit books in September. So either Ms. Rosales has had a change of heart and taken it to an unhealthy extreme, or she has other ulterior motives. In light of the spectrum of possibilities, I'll ask Ms. Rosales to plainly state her intentions tonight and clear the air in front of everyone here publicly. My comments are not limited only to Ms. Rosales. Many of our board members proclaim to be Christians. Personally, I am encouraged by this profession of faith. To me, this means you claim to believe in and practice the values prescribed in the Bible and by Jesus Christ himself. I commend you for that. There is no better model for how we should live than by following his example. The Bible provides a great deal of direction about maintaining innocence, purity, and caring for our children. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Jesus' own words in Matthew 18 says, "If you cause one of these little ones who trusts in me to fall into sin, it would be better for you to have a large millstone tied around your neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea." 2 Timothy 3 says, "In the last days there will be very difficult times. For people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They'll be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they will reject the power that could make them godly." For those on the other side of this debate, I have some questions for you. Why is it that you demand our children be exposed to perversion and sexually explicit content? Why is it your goal to remove their innocence and purity? What do you have to gain from this? I am not demonizing anyone here, but I will call attention to the demons behind this perverse movement. They have no place in this county, no power over our children, and I pronounce them banished, cast out into darkness, and gone in the name of Jesus Christ through the power of his blood sacrifice, which sets all of us free if we will accept it for ourselves. Thank you for your time. I am praying for you. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have Daphne Gamble.
I recently learned that RCS removed over 100 books from school libraries. Some of these books include A Clockwork Orange and Catch-22, which are commonly included in school curriculums, The Lovely Bones, which has previously been reviewed and determined to have literary value by RCS, Speak, a semi-autobiographical work about the trauma of being raped, which has won multiple awards, and None of the Above, which as far as I know is the only book with intersex reputation in my school's library. Many of these books have LGBTQ characters. These books were removed without being discussed at a board meeting, and I highly doubt they were thoroughly reviewed, considering the volume of books that were removed. There has been little to no transparency about these book removals. If you were truly following the law, why would you need to be so secretive? And are you going to remove every single book that discusses sex, regardless of literary or scientific value? Some of these books discuss difficult topics, but that doesn't mean they're not important topics. Books like Speak in 19 Minutes help teens like me understand and process difficult topics. Removing every single book containing sex would decimate the historical and biological collections and leave students without resources for dealing with important topics, as there are some topics that cannot be discussed without discussing sex. I understand wanting to follow the law, but the Tennessee Age-Appropriate Materials Act is unconstitutional and superseded by the Miller test. I hope you will consider putting these books back on the shelves. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Austin Maxwell.
Good evening. My name is Austin Maxwell, and I am the husband of your chairwoman. You may be asking, why is the spouse of a board member addressing us? Board member Darby's father addressed the board several weeks ago, so I felt it would be okay for me to do so this evening, but in a positive manner. I want to encourage you as a board to support each other and to be open to other board members' ideas while supporting our director of schools. I believe that the citizens of Rutherford County have the best director of schools in the state. It is a miracle that he is here given the turmoil that he and his family have gone through. And I speak from experience on that, given what my family and I went through when my son Mitchell passed away. I support you, Dr. Sullivan, and I want you to know that a majority of your board members support you as well. As elected officials, you will not make everybody happy, and you will have your detractors who will want to come up here during public comments and grandstand during their 3 minutes on television, along with emails, social media attacks, and so forth. That is their right, but do not take the bait and respond, whether they be from the left or the right or the middle. Smile and stay focused on what you think is best for our students, our teachers, our parents, and our staff. I also want you to focus on the numerous and important tasks before you. Yes, you are an all-Republican elected school board. And yes, the county voted red to the tune of 59% last Tuesday. But I want to encourage you to find solutions that can work for everybody in this county. I watched your work session on Tuesday night, and it was encouraging to see you discussing restricted reading list with parental consent, or putting the work of book review on your outstanding librarians to make a recommendation back to you as board members. As Mr. Tidwell pointed out, perhaps it should be 3 choices back to the board, such as keep, remove, or restrict with parental consent needed. An approach like that taken a few weeks ago may have avoided the inevitable lawsuit that is most likely coming to the board and the county and taxpayers like myself. Lastly, I would simply ask that you be nice to each other. You don't need to enlist people to come up here and praise you when you were attacked. You don't need to hold up signs disparaging other board members. You don't need to get family members or others to come up here and chastise the board. Work it out and have the honest dialogue as board members with each other and focus on the task ahead of you, such as finding land for schools, expanding our existing schools, creating world-class CTE programs, and continuing to create an environment where Rutherford County schools are second to none. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Next up, we have Rutherford Strong.
Hello, thank you. It's hard to follow all that, but I'm happy to try, okay? I'll do my best. So the first thing that we're going to do tonight is we're going to honor one of our chefs from our high schools. And I know Chef Penix from Blackman. Where are you, Chef? You behind me here somewhere, hopefully. Come on up, start making your way. It sounds like the Oscars. So Chef Penix is in charge of culinary arts at Blackman High School, and just so I can give you an example of the kind of man he is and the program that he leads, for several years we have done a United Way lunch for our central office here for those who contribute to the United Way campaign, and we would rotate around to different schools and ask their culinary arts program to maybe come prepare the food for us. One year though he goes, hey, we would love to do it and just do it from now on. And so they have done that for several years now. The meal is always wonderful. We've not thrown anything at him yet so far that he can't cook or his students can't cook. We had a very lovely potato bar this year. It was phenomenal. People raved about it. And so just that commitment and seeing his students, the pride they take in their work, it's just been phenomenal. So he's here tonight. Where's Tyra? Is Tyra here? Come on, Tyra. I'm going to let Tyra introduce, like many of our teachers that we get to do this every month, he has won a state-level award, not just for schools, it's for something larger, and Tyra's going to tell you a little bit more about it, and then Chef Penix is going to tell you about his program, his approach, and talk to you about one of his students here.
And as Tyra's doing that, as a board member, if you've never gone to a Blackman High School graduation, I encourage it because they do an amazing job preparing food for you before graduation.
Delicious.
Thank you. Well, I am super proud of Chef Penix. He very much deserved the award, the Industry Educator of the Year by the Tennessee Hospitality and Tourism Association. He was up against not just high school, he was up against college professors and industry people, and he won. And I tell you, the care and the all of the things that he does with his children and the
skills that they are learning, it's going to change their life. And I know we actually use him for one of our state CTE directors meetings. When we meet with legislators, Blackman High School comes in and they cater the breakfast for us. And you've done that 2 years, and they're already on the docket for the next one in February. These kids are so professional, and the way that he trains his students is, I mean, it's better. It's just great. We have 7 culinary programs in Rutherford County, and he is our CTE PLC lead, so he helps lead the other. We have 14 culinary teachers across the district, and he helps lead them with curriculum and the things that they do, other catering opportunities and things that they do. And so we are so proud of him. It's much deserved.
He also, one other thing, he also works, I meant to bring this up, told him I was going to, he also works with other programs within Blackman High School, so they have a very robust audiovisual and broadcasting program at Blackman. So they built a studio where they can actually do cooking shows, and if you watch it, there's actually a backsplash that rivals any that I've seen in most houses that Frank did himself for the thing. He wanted it to look like a kitchen. So when you watch that program, they look like they're in a kitchen. It's the corner of a classroom that he has just completely renovated and turned to that. And so it's that type of commitment that I was talking about. It's not just to his students. He wants to help all students benefit and grow. And so we're going to let him talk now. Good luck following that. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, James Evans and Tyler Pilgrim. It's an honor to be here. It was a very honor to get that award that I did not know about. I was told to be there, and they wouldn't tell me why until it finally was given to me. I look at my students and I say, I want you to become something and leave the school and do better. Instead of asking them, what do you want to do? What do you want to change? What do you want to make yourself known for? And then to do that, I entail a work ethic for them. I have students that show up at 3 o'clock in the morning at school to work on a breakfast that, we're heading to Nashville, at 5 a.m. As a field trip, and we're serving other people. And that's some of the stuff we do, but I couldn't do it without the students because it's their dedication and their responsibility to actually show up and show them that they're ready for a job. I look at my seniors as looking for job placement. I have students that not only graduated from Blackman, but are now directors of industry places, including like a nursing home. I have one in Franklin right now who is dedicated for that. And she's just 21 and now a director of a nursing home for the food and hospitality. It's more of gearing the students to that passion. And one of my students that is with me, which is also a level 4, a senior, is Alyssa Glover. And I actually had her sister as well, both in the culinary program. Tell them about the program.
Just put me on the spot here. Oh gosh, I'm nervous.
What's the best thing you cook? Tell them that.
Okay. So one of the things that we do that I love to do, I did it last year for the first time, is you do something called Cake Wars, which it's really fun actually. So we we are separated into groups when you get into the classroom. And you can kind of pick your groups, or he gives you groups, but it was actually very fun. We had, it was like a week-long thing where we all baked different cakes, we came up with concept ideas, and when we finally baked our cakes and we finished them, we even decorated them. They were all super cute. Did I win? No, but it's okay. But it was probably one of my favorite things that I've ever done in any class, in any course. But one of the things that we did in Chef Penix's class, which is I've never done in any other class, which I had made a resume for the first time. And I did that in Chef Penix's class because he thought it was an important skill to learn. I haven't done that in any other class. I haven't had a teacher sit down and say, you're going to make a resume. You're going to make sure it looks professional, and you're going to make sure it looks decent. And this is going to help you get a job, which he did. The resume that I made helped me get my first job. And, well, yeah. Oh, yes, I do actually have 2 different certifications, all from Chef Penix's class. I am a food. Yeah, see, food. Look, he's so helpful. a food handler, and I am a certified food handler manager. Yeah, okay. He's so helpful. And we did that all in Chef Finney's class. We get about 1/4 to take, well, it was like a 90 question test, and you could only miss 7 questions. We passed it within, less than an hour because we're just so awesome.
As you can see, students in his class get lots of confidence, and that's a good thing. So we appreciate you coming and all the stuff that you do for students and for our staff. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, we also launched this year the Strong Outstanding Staff Awards, and we take nominations in 4 categories, 1 being for support staff, 1 being for someone connected to transportation, like a crossing guard or a bus driver, a bus aide, things like that, an administrator, and also a teacher. We recognized Miss Mayhew, Santana Mayhew, on Tuesday night. She had to be here Tuesday. She is the attendance secretary at Rockville High School. We've already done that one. But we also, these awards are sponsored by our partners over here at Sonic. It's Mr. Chris Braggins. All right. Alan Stewart is the other. They're both partners with the Sonics here in Rutherford County. They are sponsoring these awards and providing gift cards to our winners each month. We appreciate you coming here tonight. They've been standing, too, for the last half hour, so that's another thing. But the other 3 that we want to recognize tonight, and I'm going to read a little bit of their nomination. Miss Judy Goodwin, are you here? Oh, Miss Goodwin. Miss Goodwin was selected as principal. Her nomination says that she gives everything she has to Barfield Elementary School, and all who come inside, and I can say that because she has been my principal for one of my children, and the day that I had to tell her my child was not going to attend the next year, it was like going into my mom's house saying, I'm not coming home for Christmas. It was a hard meeting, I will tell you that. Yes, she said, why are you so nervous? And I said, you just don't get it. So, but it says she's an amazing example for everyone around her, and has just been an amazing example to other principals. So thank you, Ms. Goodwin. We're going to do a photo in just a minute, but I want to read the other 2 as well. Dr. Mike Novick is here from Kittrell Elementary School. Dr. Novick. His nomination, the person nominating him said, Dr. Novak is an amazing art teacher who always goes above and beyond for his coworkers and the students. He checks in with the kids and makes sure that they're doing okay. He has a group of students that come to his art club. He's always willing to jump in and help out other teachers. He makes amazing artwork to display around the school building and inspires everyone every day. Dr. Novak, thank you.
Can I add something to that? Let me add that. I'd also like to say that he was an outstanding principal in another county, and I have tried to convince him to go back into school leadership, but he is a true teacher and wants to be with kids, and so I greatly appreciate that.
All right, our bus driver this month is bus number 114, Toshua Brooks. It says that she is by far the best special ed driver this county has ever had. She goes above and beyond to make sure that her students are taken care of. She rewards her students for their good behavior, and she is a great communicator for all of her families, and they communicate well with her as well. So, Ms. Brooks, are you here? All right, great. So, board members, we want to make sure you get your steps in today. So we're going to stand up real quick and go over to the backdrop and get a photo with our winners. If our Sonic representatives would come up as well, we're going to try to do this a little better this month. And we'll do this again in December for our November winners. But thanks again to Sonic for supporting our schools and recognizing the value of having just great community partners. Okay, make sure I can see your face between you. All right, perfect. Ready? Thank you so much. Thanks again,
I'm about to bust up this table. I'm freezing.
Turn it down. Tell her to turn it down. Josh, she's got to turn it down. What? Yeah, go ahead and haul them up.
So Colonel Gaylord, I know that you're here somewhere. Where are you? There you are.
I just found out something.
What's that?
I did not know until Colonel Gaylord and my husband deployed together.
Oh,
This is Colonel Jeffrey Gaylord. There you go. He is our leader of our JROTC program, and I just went blank on completely what his official title is, so I completely apologize for that. But he's here to present to us just kind of a state of our JROTC program, and when he went over this data with myself and Dr. Martin a couple weeks ago, it is unbelievable the impact that our JROTC students, your leadership, and the gentlemen and women underneath your leadership, and Ms. Pilgrim also should be commended, and Dr. Chastain, because JROTC falls under CTE, which falls under Dr. Chastain. So it is a strange connection of how it all works. All yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan, members of the board. Dr. Sullivan on Tuesday night kind of messed up my presentation, so I'm going to kick it off with this.
Sorry.
So I am your Director of Army Instruction, JROTC, for Rutherford County Schools. It is my distinct honor to serve in this capacity. When I took over in 1 July, I had already had in my mind that I needed to brand the JROTC program. We have 8 outstanding programs, 8 battalions, but we needed to be a brigade. So I had a parent who's a graphic artist. We started working on this in April and finished it up in about 3 hours. Thank you, AI. So we are officially called Stones River Brigade. This is our logo. This is our patch. You can see by the patch itself, we are in Middle Tennessee, thus the large star in the middle, and also the symbolism of having a national battlefield right here in close proximity to all 8 of our schools. So that is our logo, and each of our schools are battalions, and they fall underneath the Stones River Brigade. We needed leadership. Therefore, in October, we had a leadership board. All 8 schools were able to nominate cadets, their most outstanding cadets. We now have a Stones Brigade commander, a full bird colonel cadet type, and an XO and a command sergeant major, and they lead the brigade. They do all the presentations of awards at our competitions. They will be going to awards programs, and they are also working on process improvement and best concepts and ideas shared by all 8 programs. That was their idea, and we're going to put that into action. So you've got a great program here, and I'm just going to kind of give you a snapshot, hit the high notes, as George Costanza would say. So we'll go ahead and move on. So as Dr. Sullivan was saying, each year I have an obligation to report to the Director of Schools on the state of the JROTC program. And I decided, rather than just providing a bunch of data and sheets, my office created a brochure, and it's about RCS JROTC. We'll go back. As we continue along, as we're bringing this up, so that's what this brochure, go back to the previous page real quick. And on the front page, we also have our mission statements, both the JROTC mission statement to motivate young people to be better citizens, and also our Rutherford County mission statement, investing in our students for tomorrow's possibility. If you look at those 2 statements, I couldn't see 2 more well-nested statements and missions that are putting our young people out there to be better citizens. We'll go ahead and move along. So, Army JROTC is the only only JRTC program in the nation that is nationally accredited. Our governing body that accredits us is Cognia. That also requires us each year, we inspect each of our 8 programs through a very rigorous full day of inspections. And the cadets produce briefings, they do research projects, they do continuous improvement projects, and at the end of the day, they receive a score. In order for them to maintain their highest honors, which is the HUD, they have to score above a 95%. I can tell you here today, Rutherford County, all 8 schools are HUD schools. So that speaks to itself. Going ahead, JRTC goals, okay? It instills the values, citizenship, and service to the United States. It also puts personal responsibility and a sense of accomplishment. That goal right there, we have a motto here in the Stones River Brigade, instructor-fed, cadet-led. This is a cadet-led program. So I have to report on the state of our enrollment for 24-25. So this year, and this snapshot was as of 1 October, we had 17,569 students in the county. Of that, 1,256 of those were JRTC students. In addition to that, of course, you know, government, they want to know the demographics and everything else. So we have a split 53-47 male-female. I can tell you that is much higher than our JRTC national average. We have a very strong female cadet population. That compares to an overall 7.2% of our total population here in Rutherford County. That is pretty sizable. There are 8 programs. We have the Blaze Battalion, we have the Wolverine Battalion, we have the Patriot Battalion, and it goes on and so forth, and that forms the brigade. The other key thing that we report on up the chain is our JRTC graduates. This is data that was based on last year's graduates as of June the 15th. We had 167 graduates. Of that, 97 of them were pursuing continuing education. That could be 2-year, 4-year. That could also be vocational school. We also had 38 pursuing military, and then we had 32 going right into the workforce. As you can see by the pie chart, that is a pretty good spread. The huge takeaway here is the cadets earned 152 scholarships last year. That equals $4.23 million in scholarship money. Now, I can tell you what it costs Rutherford County to put 19 of my instructors in those schools, but I can tell you right now that is a return on the investment tenfold. And there's also a measurable returns of investment because these instructors are not only teachers, they're coaches and they're mentors. Just like Coach Penix and his team, they take time before school, after school, on the weekends, and they mentor these young people to be outstanding citizens. Moving on to the other part, cadets in the community. We highly encourage our cadets to support community service, which is a commitment to service above self. Last year, they logged 8,732 community service hours outside of JROTC. If Mr. Smith was here, he would be very happy. That happens to be the Blaze Battalion. That is their drill team, their drone team, and their marksmanship teams at the Sergeant Major Grade Championships, where they collected a large number of trophies and hardware. They are an outstanding program, and they did very well last year, and we've got more programs on the way going this year. Slide. Last thing, or next to the last thing, character and quality indicators. We look at 5 things that really sets JROTC apart. As you can see there, daily attendance, Now, these averages are based on school-wide within Rutherford County and then all 8 JRTC programs, 96.8% attendance. Only 10 cadets had indiscipline issues, 0 dropouts. Average GPA of a JRTC cadet is 3.27. And the real takeaway, ACT scores, 21.9. Again, an incredible return on the investment. Slide. Last thing, not only do we mentor our students, but we also coach them in a variety of extracurriculars. We have 2 schools that participate in the VEX robotics tournaments, and they went to the national championships in Dallas, Texas last year. We have a variety of all 8 of our programs participate in our Raider program. I'm going to digress here very quickly. I deliberately picked that picture right there. That is from last year because I could not get the pictures done in time because this had to be published. We actually had 3 schools that qualified and competed in the National Raider Championships at Fort Knox, Kentucky from 27 to 29 October. That's 54 states and territories. Guam, we had close to 4,000 cadets and over 600 teams competing. What did that competition look like? On Friday, they did a battle fit challenge where each of the team members had to do 1 minute of push-ups, 1 minute of curl-ups, and a 1-mile run. They went to bed that night. The next morning at 5 o'clock, they began 5 different events, and it was spread all throughout the day. They had a 5K run over varying terrains in Kentucky, which took them off the reservation and back on. They had CCR, which is basically cross-country rescue. They also had personal fitness test. Then they also had 1 rope bridge over a running creek, and they finished out the day. That evening, around 10 o'clock, the top 7 schools or top 7 teams were notified that they would be competing in Ultimate Raider. We had 2 teams qualify for that. That was Rockvale and Blackman. 2 girls from each team. Next morning at 5:30, they were up. They had to be transported, and they were at the bottom of a hill called Misery Hill for high schoolers. And that Misery Hill is a 40% grade, and it's 800 meters straight uphill. They took off. Once they got to the top, as a team, they had to negotiate 12 obstacles as a team. Then once they completed that, they were put in a holding corral for a period of about 15 minutes, and then they were launched on a 2-mile run with about a 14% grade all the way uphill to the parade field at Fort Knox, where they would finish. But they had to divert. At mile 1.34, they got to go to the swimming pool, and they got to jump in with full uniform and boots and swim 25 meters, get out and run the last quarter mile. Those girls finished 3rd and 7th in that competition. So that speaks volumes. We do a variety of color guards. We also have an incredible marksmanship program throughout the county. We also have the JLAB, which is the picture to my right, your left. And that is the JRTC Leadership Academic Bowl team. We had Blackman High School attend the national championships at American University in Washington, D.C. They were there for 5 days, and they competed, and they finished in the top 25 teams in the United States. The last thing is robotics. Is drone. We have now started a drone program, competition drone program, and we have 3 schools doing that. Last slide, I promise. RCS offers JRTC as a voluntary elective, but we don't have a problem with getting students that want to be a part of this program. The main thing that we have to constantly preach is there's no military service obligation. This is a citizenship program. It is a leadership program. They can go into state, local, or national civil service. They can go into the service, whether it be through the officer route or the enlisted route, and they can also go into corporate America because the leadership skills that we provide them put them light years ahead of their contemporaries. And they also earn all those additional credits that they don't have to take throughout the rest of their high school career. And we provide everything to them at no cost because this is a cost-shared program. Slide. Subject to that, what are your questions or comments?
Go ahead.
I just also want to give a shout out, even though he's not here. Colonel Rector was our DAI last year. Colonel Gaylord, of course, is in our leadership now and taking us to new heights, but I do think it's appropriate to recognize him for his hard work. He retired on June 30th. So.
Yes.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have legal.
First, we have a transfer student under discipline. The board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. This student was remanded for possession of a THC product. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. Director of Schools' recommendation is to admit and place into alternative school. However, the board has any option to either admit, deny as they see fit.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to admit?
Second.
Second, Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 2.
The board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. The student was expelled for possession of a THC product. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. Director of Schools' recommendation is deny, but again, the board can admit or deny as they see fit.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Second by Ms. Rosales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Number 3, policy.
This is the policy adoption, the first reading of 2 readings. These policies below are recommended on the first reading. Policies will be brought at the next scheduled board meeting for a second and final reading. Do you want to do these individually, as a whole? How do you want to do it? In the past, we've been doing them individually.
Let's just do them individually.
First one, we have policy 1.802, section 504 and ADA grievance procedures, streamlines language and policy to differentiate the grievance process under section 504 and ADA.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second by Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
B, policy 5.302 is sick leave, adds language to comply with the agreement MOU with REA.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Vaughn, motion. Second. Second. Ms. Rosales. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Ms. Sharp? Mr. Tidwell opposed? 5-2. Motion passes.
C, policy 5.308 sabbatical leave, adds language to comply with agreement MOU with REA.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And in the beginning of the agenda, we moved policy 6.313 back to policy, so we'll move to E. Policy 6.308, bus safety and conduct, extends time for recordings to 5 days and adds language for reporting and tracking of discipline on buses.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Mr. Tidwell.
Second.
Second by Ms. Darby. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, for the annual policy review, TSBA's Board of Distinction Program recognizes school boards for their work, and this is just FYI for those watching. School boards that seek this designation must meet specified requirements in 4 key areas: planning, policy, promotion, and board development. One of the requirements is an annual review and maintenance of the entire policy manual. TSBA helps with our overall maintenance, and so we are going to start looking at each individual area over the next couple months.
Thank you. Number 2, engineering and construction.
Smyrna Middle School sports request. Principal Dr. Takesha Ferguson is requesting to renovate the outdoor concession restroom, build softball dugouts, seal the stadium, replace the softball scoreboard, and add soccer scoreboards. All work will be performed and funded by Dow Smith at no cost to the board. Engineering Construction has reviewed this request and has no objection. Recommended motions to approve the Smyrna Middle request as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. Ms. Stark? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next.
Smyrna Middle Field House naming request. Dr. Takesha Ferguson is requesting to name the current football field house the Allen Field House. Mike and Rhonda Allen are lifelong residents of Rutherford County and attended Smyrna Middle and Smyrna High. Their sons attended the schools as well. The Allen family have contributed endless amounts of time, money, and resources to Rutherford County, and especially Smyrna Middle and the Junior Pro Football League. Mike coached in the league for 25 years and has held multiple board positions. Rhonda has held several positions in public service and has been a vital part of the education process in our county. Mike's father, Red Allen, was one of the original football club parents on the design and construction of the Smyrna Middle Field House. Through Mike and Rhonda's business, Allen's Air Care, they generously donated thousands of dollars to the upkeep and improvement of this field house. Mike is currently a volunteer coach for the Smyrna Middle football team. Recommended motions to approve the SMS Field House naming request as presented.
They're a wonderful couple, and this is a wonderful thing.
So move.
We have a second? Mr. Vaughn, second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have number 3.
McFadden School Hammock Reading Garden request. Principal Clark Blair is requesting to install a hammock reading garden in the outdoor recreation area. The estimated cost for this project is not to exceed $800 and to be funded by the PTO. Engineering Construction has reviewed this request and does not have an objection. Recommended motions to approve the McFadden Hammock Garden as presented.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Vaughn? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next.
CTE Multi-School Health Science request. CTE Department is proposing the renovation of the kitchenette spaces for Blackman Middle School, the cost of $20,000, Eagleville School with a cost of $45,000, Rocky Fork Middle with a cost of $50,000, Smyrna Middle with a cost of $47,000, Siegel Middle with a cost of $20,500, Laverne Middle with a cost of $72,000. The RCS CTE Department will be paying for construction and installation costs of the kitchenette renovations using the funds made available through the Tennessee Innovative Schools Models Grant. These renovations will eliminate a barrier in adequately preparing students with basic life skills that are expected of all independent individuals who go into society. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and has no objections. Recommended motion to approve the CTE kitchenette renovations request is presented.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Second, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 12.
Mission statement. A new mission statement was discussed at the Fall Board Retreat, October 18th, 2024. The proposed mission statement is investing in every student every day. Recommended motions to approve the mission statement as presented.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.
13 is the recommended motion of the annual agenda. Recommended motions to approve the annual agenda as presented. I do want to point out that is one of the portions that is part of the Director of Schools evaluation in 5.1.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 14.
14 is what we've done the last 2 years. We have closed on Wednesday, November 27th, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I emailed the board today. The Rutherford County government has already announced they will be closed. So for us to close, I have to have an official permission from the board to close our central office.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Ms. Sharp for second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
We greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Number 15.
We discussed this at the work session. Board member requested to discuss board meeting structure. So anything else?
And we did. Next, 16.
Financial report we did at the work session.
17.
Director's update I would like to do after general discussion, just as it is some good news and celebration of how we are performed as a school system. I think that'd be a good way for us to end, if that's all right with everybody.
Okay, thank you. General discussion?
Ms. Maxwell?
Ms. Rosales.
Thank you. I want to say something, so bear with me. I want to also clear up some things. One is that there was this conversation that there's these books that come automatically and they just come from the sky. Well, I've been in the publishing industry for a very, very long time, and I know that one thing is that when publishers are wanting to promote a particular book, there may be advanced readers or galley books that they may be presented because they're wanting to show what's coming to the pipeline. It doesn't mean that these books are immediately put on the shelf because they're not the sell-on-by-date books. And then secondly, I also want to address some concern that I don't think it was intentional to talk about the way that librarians look at books and approve and how their acts and how they process and determine whether a book should be available or not, that the process is not thorough. Because in all, quite honestly, if you've not been sitting in the side of the process from beginning to end, it's a little bit, and I know it was intentional, but it's a little bit insulting to the integrity of the process, because the process of how a book is created and to the point where it comes to the librarian, to the libraries, however deemed possible, which the librarians can speak to and go to that process, it's a lot more thorough. And they are not just a review in Amazon. There's also reviews that come from places like Publishers Weekly, where it's a highly esteemed, acclaimed review that a book, and that if an author gets that weight merits a lot. So it's more to the process than saying, oh, they're just going to Amazon and looking at what says. So I think there's some inconsistencies and so misinformation and how this process is come about. But I just wanted to say that last Tuesday, we had a very good in-depth discussion about the books and the review process, and it raised, some very valid concerns. And I understand that the librarians have voiced frustration, partly due to the lack of guidance on how to handle library books in compliance with the state law. And since February, they have been tasked with reviewing over 30 books, which detracts from the regular duties. So to be fair, changes to the law took effect in July 2024, while they were on summer break, leaving them with only a week from August 1 to August 8 to prepare for the school year before student arrival. In order to implement this law effectively, I believe we must provide clear direction on how to proceed with compliance to the law. Options could include extending the compliance deadline to the end of the academic year to our district, allowing librarians ample time to review materials without compromising other essential duties. It's important to recognize that this position requires a master's degree, reflecting a level of expertise not easily replaceable. Speaking for myself, and I believe the board will agree, we're not questioning their professionalism or authority, and we should respect their role as experts in assessing what is age appropriate. Therefore, I propose that we give them until the end of the academic year to complete the first phase of reviewing their collections, beginning with the 160 challenge books, 10 from an earlier challenge, and the 150 newly challenged list. These challenge books have been pulled from the shelves, so we are compliant with the law. Any further book challenges could then be addressed. Additionally, I recommend we offer $1,000 compensation per librarian to support the work. They are asking for guidance, and it's important that we listen to them. So with that, I make a motion. I move that we give our librarians until the end of this academic year to review the challenge books, 10 from an earlier challenge list and 100 from a second challenge list, and report to the board that their conclusions as to which of the challenge books should be removed or retained from school libraries under the standards established in TCA 49-6-3803, and that each librarian receive additional compensation of $1,000 for the work on this project. The board will then make a determination after receiving this report as to what books shall be removed or retained. Books that do not meet the standards established in TCA 496-3803 can be brought to the board to vote to put back once removed throughout the academic year. And that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
You, Mr. Vaughn? Discussion, comments?
I have some questions. First off, I don't know who said that they were using Amazon reviews, so that's interesting. But it says since February, librarians have been tasked with reviewing 30 different books. Dr. Sullivan, was that for age appropriateness, or was that through the sexually explicit?
Obscenity.
Okay. The librarians were not tasked with reviewing those books. That was brought by me after reviewing some of the books myself and submitted by board members, so I don't know that that was part of the process. As far as, I guess I have a question. Are the 150 books, as we've talked about this here, we talked about this at the work session, we talked about this in September, the 150 books that are being challenged, are they being challenged for age appropriateness, for obscenity, or for sexually explicit material? Do you know, Dr. Sullivan?
Sexually explicit is the way it was worded.
Okay. So if we have 150 books that are being challenged, which seems like a lot, I don't know that waiting till the end of the year is the best way to do it, but as far as breaking them up into smaller sections, I would not be opposed to that. Maybe we're looking at 20 or 30 or something like that a month versus keeping the books, well, they've already been pulled, but versus keeping books that might, I mean, from what I've seen, which I haven't reviewed the whole list, I'll say that, what I've seen, some of these books are certainly not going to meet the definition. So for all the arguments made that we're pulling books and, shouldn't be pulling books, the books that I have personally submitted, I have personally reviewed, and I have made sure they met those definitions. When I see a huge list like this, it makes me question, like, what is actually the purpose and the intention, especially after reviewing some of the books, knowing they won't meet that definition. So if we're talking about unity and compromise and finding the right way, I think that possibly we could review a certain amount of these books, maybe 30 a month we could possibly do, over the next 5 months. And we can have, as I mentioned at the work session, librarians potentially making a recommendation on their own, so it wouldn't necessarily be a committee-based, but making recommendations through 3 different options back to the board. And with that, I think we can get to the bottom of this a lot faster, and the books that do not need to be removed are back on the shelves faster. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on the matter. So I think it would probably make more sense to, if the motion is open to amendment, make more sense to kind of speed this process along versus just kind of dumping it at the end.
Mr. Vaughn?
I'll put my 2 cents in too. Our librarians are the literary specialists in our school system. They probably know more about literary issues more so than I guess anybody in this county. And I thoroughly leave knowing that we have the best librarians anywhere, that, by them having to make sure that these books comply with the state law, I have the utmost faith and confidence in the decision the librarians make and come back to us with these recommendations. I don't know about the other board members, but 150 books, counting comic books, I hadn't read that many in my lifetime. But, it just, it's going to be a challenge just for the librarians. But I think they're the ones to help make us this decision, in my opinion. I value their judgment.
Thank you.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez.
With all due respect, Mr. Tidwell, the books that you had challenged were challenged on the same thing, sexual explicit. Also, one of the books that we voted, Beloved, technically should have not been removed. Why? Because there's a section, a part of the law about the curriculum aspects, which is what I've been asking the AG, I've been asking about, is that if it's a book that has been adopted as part of a curriculum, it doesn't qualify as part of the sexual explicitness because it's something that can still be a book that can be assigned as assignment, can be assigned as a classwork assignment to students. So there were certain things that we did that day that couldn't necessarily should have been removed. So this gives time to thoroughly vet these books so we don't make hasty decisions, and we allow the experts, the librarians, to go through it. Right now, the way that we do it is that we bring these books before us and then we make a quick decision. There's no vetting of them. There's no expert opinion weight on them except from the book reviews that are coming from booklooks.com. Those are the things that we receive, even from your collection of what we got. So this is a way to say as a compromise and saying to our librarians that they're the experts, let's listen to them. They will give us a report, and then we make the determination as defined by the law.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Tidwell.
Respectfully, still, I think the comment that was made, and I got a direct quote here, is since February, librarians have been tasked with reviewing these 30 books, and that was simply the distinction that I was making a difference in. Secondly, I made the suggestion that we get librarians involved from the beginning, that they can be a part of the recommendation process. However, I just don't understand why we're going to drag this thing out for so long. There's a lot of people that probably disagree with me on the outcome of some of these books, but regardless, I think there's a balance. Again, as I mentioned multiple times, that final say is at the school board. That's where that final say is. That's us, the representative people. The reference back to book looks and letting the librarians review them, technically, as our policy suggests, all of these books have already been thoroughly reviewed. So the ones that I have already submitted and brought to you guys, in which the district itself actually did removal near the beginning, they had technically already been reviewed, and yet they were still found to be sexually explicit. So what I'm offering is, if we're looking for a compromise, if we're looking for some unity, getting the librarians involved is certainly on the table as far as recommendations go. My question is, why do we want to wait to the very end? The reference back to Beloved, again, we've had several legal opinions. I've not seen a lawsuit about it. So we've had several legal opinions that have said that the school library is what we're dealing with, not things related to the curriculum. We've dealt with that with the Statute of David and arguments that are related back to the curriculum. So again, my push is, if we're looking to try to get to the bottom of this reasonably, in a reasonable time fashion, we have people that want the books back on the shelves. We have people that want the books off of the shelves, but yet there's this huge amount. Let's do it in sections and do it in a reasonable amount. We're going to keep saying, well, all right, the librarians are going to review these books. They have already done that. They've already done that. I'm asking them to take what we're asking them to do is take a more in-depth look at these books. The content and any reference to any site, I'll end with this, but the reference to book looks or rated books or any other site, it is direct excerpts from the book. It is not subjective opinions of the book. The ratings are subjective, but it is direct excerpts. So, I mean, y'all have heard the excerpts, and we've made decisions. Going back to the motion, I'm just asking that let's please, as a balance and unity, here's an opportunity for us as a board to be unified. Let's break this up over several months and then possibly come to a better conclusion. Get back books in the libraries that were maybe put on this that won't meet the definition of sexually explicit, and then possibly have some that are removed that might meet the definition. That's my proposal.
Yes, Mr.
My question would be, what if, because some of them I agree will not meet the threshold. If we put a limit, my worry would be we may find more than, if we do 20 or 30 a month, we may find more than 30 that don't meet the threshold. And if we find more than 30, then I would want to have the option to be able to put more than 30 on an agenda to vote on. So that would be my only concern with that. Is
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, Mr. Tidwell.
I will tell you I have no problem with that.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, Mr. Rosales.
The motion says that books that do not meet the standards established in TCA 4963803 can be brought to the board to vote to put back once removed throughout the academic year. So that solves the question. They can bring the books anytime. If there is 15 books that they found on December, I don't know, next December 6th, because they don't meet the threshold, we can put it on the agenda and vote on it because it didn't meet. So there shouldn't be any questions about if there's a book that doesn't, how quickly we can put it back. What this does is to give the librarians to review it. Yes, there are excerpts that were taken from lookbooks, but who reviewed those excerpts in book looks? It wasn't our librarians, and I think that's where the frustration comes in. They're saying to us, they're the experts, they understand this. I'm saying, let's give them this option. Whether we agree or disagree at the end of the day, we gave them that option. We may agree and we may not, but we gave them the option to look through the books and review them.
I'll let Ms. Sharp go first.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. The problem with this motion is that since the books were submitted, I personally wouldn't have submitted that many at one time. I would have waited until after the first of the year because we historically have been submitting 5 or 10, which is reasonable to be able to look at. Now that we have the 150 books, they have to be actioned in 60 days. Correct? Dr. Sullivan? Are they good?
if the original complainant in this situation would be Ms. Rosales, she would have to be the one to take them. But yes, they can be moved to the state after 60 days.
If we don't
Ms.
take action.
Rosales would have to be the one to take it.
Okay. I would like to have time myself to look at the list because we just saw it Tuesday, and I do feel like that there are some on there that are not going to fit that. I would like to split it up between board members and our librarians, and get the books back on the shelf as soon as possible and get the ones out of there that should be. I don't think that we should wait till the end of the school year to accomplish that.
Mr. Vaughn.
You know, let's leave it up to the librarians to make a decision. Let's let them decide how to do it, whether they want to group it, whether not to group it. You know, they know more about it than we do, by far. And, you know, they don't make cliff notes for these books. And, you know, these librarians know a whole lot more about it than we do. And I just want to leave it up to them. And if they want to group them, that's fine. Let them do whatever. And these books can be brought back anytime.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Ms. Darby.
I have a couple of questions if Mr. Rosales will entertain them. I'm curious, I guess, what the point was in submitting the 150 books at one time.
We want to get rid of sexual explicit,
But-
right? We want to get rid of sexual explicit.
Okay, so you looked at all 150 reviews and found them all to be sexually explicit and submitted them?
And we want to protect children, correct?
I'm asking you a
But I'm
question.
asking you, do we
Yes,
want
yes, we
to-
do. Now
Exactly.
answer mine.
So this is what it is. This is a list.
Did you
that
look
this
at
is
all
the list.
150 reviews? I just have a question. She submitted it. I would like to know if she looked at all of them and found them all to be sexually explicit. This has caused a firestorm among our librarians. Everybody's concerned about the time they're going to be taking, and apparently there are books on there that have no business being on there, so we're wasting people's time. So I'm asking the question.
So my question is, do we want to get rid of sexual explicit?
I
Yes
asked
or
you
no?
the question.
But I'm
You
asking
didn't
you a
ask me.
second
You don't have
question.
the floor.
Do
I
we
do.
want- But you asking me a question.
So
I'm
then
answering. So you're asking
Ladies,
me a
Ms.
question
Rosales.
directly, and I'm
Oh.
asking
Ms.
you,
Rosales.
do you want to get rid of sexual explicit? Do you have a full about getting rid of sexual explicit?
Ms.
Do we
Rosales.
want to get rid of sexual explicit?
Order. One at a time. Ms. Darby.
It's fine. She's not going to answer the question. So my whole point would be, I know that when Mr. Tidwell brought books to the board, he had looked at each of those books and found them to be extremely sexually explicit. And so they got reviewed, they were voted on, and the outcome was the outcome. We have now placed a task of 150 books that they're now asking the librarians to review when the person that submitted them, from all accounts, didn't even look at all 150 reviews. And I feel like that's disrespectful to the time of our librarians. So I'm not sure what the point of all of that was. Like I stated on Tuesday, we had a policy committee meeting where we postponed it because we are waiting from an answer by the AG so that we can properly correct our policy to speak to the AG's opinion of the state law so that we can then put a clear and precise policy in place so that the people of our district know how to move forward with this and we can properly take care of it. Just randomly doing things without specific purpose and without the answers to things we've already postponed, this is like a round robin game of insanity. I don't understand why it's going this direction. And with that, I'm going to call the question on her motion.
We have a motion?
Whoa.
Mr. Vaught?
I got a question. Mr. Reed.
So we got to vote. Need to call the question.
Is there a second on the call to question?
Is there a second on the call to question? Ms. Sharp?
Take a vote.
Okay.
We have to take a vote and call in the question.
Which is to end discussion.
Yes. 2/3 vote.
Mr. Vaught?
No.
Mr. Vaughn?
No.
Mrs. Darby?
Yes.
Ms. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Tidwell?
I have more questions. No.
Mrs. Rosales?
No.
Mrs. Maxwell?
No.
The noes have it.
Okay, we will continue. Yes, Mr. Vaught?
Okay, here's the reason I asked for you. When the books are challenged, the board has 60 days to act, correct? Isn't it something like that? We've got to do.
Under the age-appropriate statute, that's what the age-appropriate section of the statute provides.
And that's how Mr. Tidwell has challenged the first 10 books, correct?
He has challenged the books based on them being sexually explicit,
correct,
which is different than the age appropriateness standards in the statute.
So how much time do we have to react to that?
The statute says any books that fall within the definition of those prohibited classifications are to be immediately removed.
And they have been, correct?
Yes.
And so then what?
Then our policy, it's not in the statute, our policy says it comes back to the board for the board to take an action on the books that have been removed.
Okay.
There's no time frame in our policy for that.
Okay.
So you've got two things. You've got the state statute and then our policy. The state statute does not require it to come back to the board for action. Our policy does require the sexually explicit materials to come back to the board for a final determination.
Okay, so then so the board taking action to send it to the librarians to let them review it, would that be considered taking appropriate action?
There's no prohibition on that in your policy.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure we're satisfying the statute, the policy, and everything related to it. Thank you.
Mr. Tidwell.
That was a question I was going to ask about the 60 days. But I guess just to belabor this last point, because it looks like we're growing right to a vote, is again, if they don't meet the definition, look, I feel like I'm on both sides of the argument. Here I am submitting books one day, and the next day I'm over here trying to defend keeping them in. Because it's based on what I see in what's been submitted. So if you want to get books that are reasonably and rightly deserve to be back in the library earlier, faster, my recommendation would be an amendment to the motion to say, hey, we're going to look at X amount of books a month, or the librarians are going to make a recommendation on X amount of books, and if it happens faster, as Dr. Sullivan has referred to, great, we're getting that. Some of these, from what I've seen, are very short, so it could be faster than what we could determine. But that's what my request would be as far as amendments.
Mr. Vaughn.
I'd like to make one statement to every person sitting in this room, whether he got his white shirt on or a purple shirt, it doesn't matter. This problem needs to go back to the state legislature. This is where it came from, and that's what's causing every bit. It's causing every bit of this discord among this board, among our community. And, it all came from this sorry law. It needs to be revisited and done correctly. This was not done correctly. So, if you want to take out being upset with anybody, call your state legislatures and let them know how you feel. So, that's my 2 cents.
We have a motion on the floor.
Madam Chair.
Would you like her to repeat them? Yeah, sorry.
Can I say one more?
Yes,
I was sidebarring, apologize for the sidebar with Dr. Sullivan, but we literally have 5 weeks of school left this year. And there's just no way. And unfortunately, those books have been pulled off the shelf, and I think they should have stayed on the shelf at least submitted in increments. I don't think, and this doesn't have anything to do with the librarians. This has everything to do with the state law and us complying with the state law. Williamson County has slow-rolled complying with the county, and they've been sued. So there's possible lawsuits on both sides. So need to think about that as well.
Well, I'm confused then. You're saying slow roll or not slow roll? You're saying get them off the shelf or don't get them off the shelf?
Look, everybody wants them off the shelf, but nobody can in any timely manner.
But then if they're all, I don't know.
Look, the books should have been previewed before they were submitted. There's no way that anyone looked at those 150 books before they were submitted to say that they were sexually explicit. There's just no way.
You know that for a fact.
She's already said that she didn't do it.
I did not say that.
Well, you did.
I did not say that. I said
no talking from the
sexual
gallery.
Explicit
I have the
books
floor.
removed from the
I have the
library.
floor.
Mr. Rosales.
I have the floor. Look, nobody wants the sexually explicit books up there. We want them out as quickly as we can do them. But this sending them in now, 5 weeks until the end of school, and having our employees go into the holidays with this over their heads is unconscionable. This should have been broken up, just like we had done historically, And we need to break these up and take them, look at the ones, we can look at the ones between now and our next school board meeting and say, there's some of these that are not going to make this. They're not going to make this list just by looking at them. One of the ladies in the audience had one, she said, it doesn't have sexually explicit material in it. So I think we need to really not run into this and try to do the 150 books at one time, but look at that list between now and our next school board meeting, and then call those out that are not, and then what's left, then we'll disseminate through the school board members and our librarians.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, Mr. Rosales.
There was a lot of comments that were said that if we have these books in our libraries, we're breaking law. It's a misdemeanor. So are you saying that you want our librarians, that our county will be breaking the law and misdemeanor for having these books on library shelves by doing it incrementally? I thought we want to get rid of all the material of sexual explicit because you're asking us to break the law. That was one of the comments that kept saying over and over again.
Mr. Tidwell.
Ms. Maxwell, or Dr. Sullivan, are the books currently removed?
Yes.
Okay, so they're not breaking the law. We're asking to speed up the process rather than dragging it out over months and months and months just to muddy up the waters. The other comment that I was going to make is there's an opportunity here for unity on this board. And so I just think we take advantage of that opportunity, and it wouldn't be hard to do. The process still plays out the right way, and we get the books that are out, need to be out, books need to be retained, can be back in, and we just move forward with it. There's a great opportunity here. We keep hearing about unity. Here's the opportunity for unity.
Question. Dr. Chastain, how long do you think realistically do librarians need to preview this 150 books? Is it possible by the end of the school year, which I'm a math teacher, used to be a math teacher, but middle of November to the end of May is more than 5 weeks. But how long do you honestly feel like it would take? Is that long enough, or do they need longer time?
We are not afraid of the work and can do it within whatever time frame we are given. We have some thoughts on how we can split these up among our librarians so that it's not falling on one person or one school. I hate to even ask a question.
Go ahead.
But I'm going to fall in line with Mr. Tidwell on, the only way past this is through it. So here we are. And this is going to seem like a very ignorant question, so please, everybody, forgive me for this question.
I think your quote should be our new mission statement. I think we should revisit that.
In order to review these effectively with the obscenity law and the age-appropriate law in mind, while also not losing the tools we have available, which are some common parameters on grade level appropriateness, some parent consent, some permissions. I think that is the collective community wish. In order to do that, we do need to know sexually explicit isn't defined, and that I can find. So we have, and again, the effort of clarity is, I think I understand what the board's wish is. But in order to stick to the definitions in both of these laws, which reference each other, we need some clarity, and it doesn't have to come tonight. I don't know what the process is on getting that clarification on the definition of sexually explicit, or is our charge to strictly follow the definitions referenced in both age-appropriate and obscenity, which are things that reference patently offensive. And this is where there are going to be some things that get brought back to the board, and there are going to be discussions for us to figure out where our line is. I think everybody is okay with that. But in order to be efficient, we do need to clarify what it is you want us to reference in a thorough review.
Ms. Maxwell.
Yes, Mr. Tidwell.
Great question. All right, so the law that's always referenced is 49-6-3803. There is section, I'm reading correctly, it looks like section B, part 1. That is, when sexually explicit is kind of the umbrella word that's being used to describe that, but I'm just going to read that real quick. It's in whole or in part contains nudity or descriptions or depictions of sexual excitement, sexual conduct, excess violence, or the abuse, as those terms are defined in 39-17-901. So the definitions are actually defined in the other coordinating law. And then it says it's not appropriate for the age or maturity level of a student in any of the grades, kindergarten, K through 12, and must not be maintained in the library collection. So that is, I understand what your question is, and I hope I've answered it correctly, in the fact that we're using the word sexually explicit as a term to not have to repeat that same clause.
Under in B1. So if we're looking at B1, that does specify in the new law about whole or part. That was the big change that's caused the confusion in our library circles. We are then charged with specifically using in B1, and obviously not ignoring the rest of the age-appropriate law.
Sure.
But those are the definitions that we will then reference in any review that's brought back to the board, so that, just so that we're clear, we will make sure to reference the definitions from the obscenity law. 39-17-901 is where those definitions are. And I would expect, and again, we've tried not to get ahead of the process, so we have not discussed with librarians the way we'll comment on these books, but I would expect us to have then some references to sexual conduct, things that are patently offensive. That is also defined, so I think we can use, is that a unifying message? Will be on that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. If I can say one last thing on that. So that in the connecting the 39-17-901, it describes those definitions in detail. And if I may make a suggestion, when the review process is happening, if they see that, okay, this violates sexual misconduct, labeling that next to the passage, and then everybody's clear, the law's good, we're all under the same idea.
Yes, Dr. Sullivan.
So I think the problem is going to be, I'm going to try to help, because I don't want Dr. Chastain to have to be the face for this either, across the entire state. What my concern is what may be viewed by a board member as patently offensive is not patently offensive as appropriate or as defined in the law. And that is my big concern, is that there is a sexual excitement's an example, and I'm not going to read the definition, but sexual excitement has clear definition of what meets that threshold. In some of the books we've had in the past, are they graphic? Absolutely. Would I want my kids to read them? Probably not. Do they meet that threshold? Not as defined. And that is where we are stuck in trying to listen to media specialists and librarians, uphold what the board wants, but also follow the law. We are absolutely stuck in the middle of that. And that is where we did under policy. We wanted that portion for it to come back to the board so that the board could decide that.
Dr. Sullivan? Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, Mr. Rosales.
If there are books where they fall in that grayish area, is what you're talking about, could then the recommendation be with parental consent? It's a book that that may be viewed by some that they may not, or whatever. That could be an option if we could be given that, if it falls on that side.
If that's something the board wants to do, but then we run into the state law that says in whole or in part. And so that is where we're constantly stuck.
Ms. Darby.
Well, sorry, that can be noted
Ms.
on the
Rosales.
books. Is that?
Ms. Darby.
I want to bring this up because we're trying to get clarity, and I think some of the confusion comes in here. When you go to 49-6-3802, B1, and it lists the words in here, the definitions for those words specifically are in 39-17-901. So we need to be clear, if we're looking at them for sexually explicit material, what definitions you want them looking at, because I think that there is some confusion there because some of this is wanting to fall underneath the obscenity section where it talks about patently offensive and the average person and all of that. But the actual definitions to the words that are specifically in B1 are different than that. So if we're going to try and give clarity, we need to be clear. If we're asking you to look at this for sexually explicit, we need you to look at the law on 49.63802B1, and you may use the definitions in 39.17.901 as they pertain to nudity, sexual excitement, sexual conduct. I really do think it has to be that clear, because otherwise there is still going to be a massive amount of confusion as to which part of 39.17.901 they're using to review that book. Okay.
Dr. Chastain, I'd say use those definitions.
Yes.
Okay.
Use that, and bring them back to us, I guess, if they want to bring them back to us. If they don't, it doesn't meet the standards, bring them back. We'll put them back on the shelf.
We'll get to work. Okay. Well, we have a motion. Do we need to reread the motion? Mr. Tidwell.
Let's get a question. So she's going to bring them back, sounds like bring them back quickly if they don't meet the standard. So are we still waiting until the end of the year? That's the question.
Can I?
Yes, Dr. Sullivan.
The way that I understood Mrs. Rosales' motion after hearing her read that second part was that they can come back at any point during the academic year. And so we will get to work as quickly as possible.
All right, great.
Can you reread the motion? Because it's been a while.
My motion is, I move that we give our librarians until the end of this academic year to review the challenge books, 10 from an earlier challenge list and 150 from a second challenge list, and report to the board their conclusions as to which of the challenge books should be removed or retained from school libraries under the standards established in TCA 49-6-3803, and that each librarian receive additional compensation of $1,000 for the work on this project. The board will then make a determination after receiving this report as to what books shall be removed or retained. Books that do not meet the standards established in TCA 49-6-3803 can be brought to the board to vote to put back once removed throughout the academic year.
And we had a second?
Mr.
Mr. Vaughn. Okay. Would you like to roll? Yes, Mr. Vaughn.
I got one final question. This is a monetary thing, right? Because you have tied $1,000 into it. How many librarians do we have that would be reviewing this?
We have 60. I'm not sure if everybody is wanting to opt into the review process. I mean, we have librarians with family time to consider.
Sure.
So at most 60,000, I would.
So do we need to put a financial cap on it, or we've undesignated fund balance, we have enough money somewhere?
We should have it because we don't budget our direct outcome or our outcome funding for TISA.
Okay, so we're good on money.
Ms. Darby.
Thank you.
Would it be too much to ask, or do you feel it's necessary, Dr. Sullivan, to add into that motion that we are not asking them to do this outside of their regular working hours?
Then we would definitely not need to pay them. But if we're doing it during their working hours, we do need to close libraries. That's the problem.
I think I would like to have that discussion because I do not want to ask them to spend their time. I know Wilson County closed their libraries for 2 weeks so they could accomplish this. We could even do close on Mondays and Fridays for a few months. I don't know, but it's a discussion I would like to have because I certainly don't want to ask them to take their personal time up to do that.
Is that Dr. Chastain?
I hate the idea of closing libraries. I think I understand that there's part of this in terms of how are we balancing efficiency with the services that are provided in our schools to our students. I mean, we have every student every day on our wall. It's in our mission. I hate to give the impression that we have to close our libraries in order to the books are off the shelves. I think we can work quickly and efficiently. I think if we're able to pay some stipends, we can do it. I would leave that up to our librarians if we want to have a conversation with them on what they prefer. But I hate students to suffer in a closed library.
Mr. Vaughn.
Dr. Chastain, would you ask the librarians, y'all get together, what do they think realistically, the time frame that it would take to do this? If we need longer than the end of the school year, there's no problem with that.
We do not.
And if we need to go through the summer and do that and pay them extra money, that's fine too.
We will not need that either.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to start as soon as this board meeting's over.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a motion. We have a second. Does everybody understand what the motion states? Okay. How about we roll call, please?
I'm sorry, Ms. Maxwell, one last question. Just to make clarity, all these books will come back to the board for recommendation to retain or to remove?
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Tidwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosales?
Yes.
Ms. Sharp? Yes. Mr. Vaught? Yes. Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mrs. Darby?
No.
Mrs. Maxwell?
Yes.
All right, it's 6 yes.
6, it passes.
Call your state legislator.
All right, can I do director's update?
Now we're going back to director's update.
I know everybody wants to leave, but I would ask that you stay with us before you leave because this is some good news. First, I am multitasking up here because I'm watching the county commission meeting. So I want to thank our county commission. They voted, I believe it was either 19-0 or 18 with 1 abstaining to fund Laverne High School's addition.
Hey.
So congratulations. Dr. Hatchett's back there. And I do want to point out that as part of that funding, and that's not the congratulations, we want to thank that, but over the last 27 months, we have developed an amazing relationship with our county commission. Just to let you all know what they have funded, total as of today, they will have funded $259 million without a tax increase caused by us for new buildings and new additions. And so that is a huge thank you that goes without being noticed. Our school system did take $36 million of that out of our own fund balance. And so the actual funding is about $223, but still that is a huge amount. And so that is a huge thank you. Couple things to hit on. One, we are in the middle of our charter school enrollment true-ups. I won't go into big details, but I think the board does need to be aware. We, of course, fund our charter schools on projections. Their projections, I'll give you, American Classical was 340, Springs charter was 240. Neither one of them are at their projection, and that'll start to be reflected in their November payments. Yes, students, that was their projection. And so as we have paid the first couple months on projections, it may very well get to November to where December that there isn't a payment for true-up because there are so many students that different projection. So I would not be surprised. So I just wanted the board to be aware. We're working with American Classical on an issue that I'm going to try to give them some time to correct, but it's going to be a hit that we're going to have to discuss. Now, the next big thing as a board we have to discuss is rezoning. So I mentioned this at our work session. We have to solidify our zone lines for 25-26 at that December 10th rezoning meeting. So elementary school has new zone lines that go into effect with Poplar Hill Elementary School. I don't anticipate many changes to that. Middle school doesn't really have any new zones because we're waiting for the new middle school to open. High school has new zones based on Oakland, Riverdale, and Smyrna's additions. We have a work session on December 3rd, a board meeting on December 5th, and then an official rezoning meeting on December 10th. The reason that is imperative is that we have to publish our open seats for 2 weeks before we start our lottery to start taking applications for open seats. That lottery started January 1st. So I will have the data on the 18th, I hope, and as soon as I'm done, I'm sending it to you all, and they're going to do their official presentation the 3rd.
18th.
Yes. Yep. So I meet with them on the 18th. Now let's talk about some celebrations because these are ultimately what it's about is the school system. First, Central Magnet has been named the #1 school in Tennessee yet again, and so congratulations to Dr. Ashton Central. They are ranked number 19 overall in the country. What is unique for us is that we are also proud to have the #1 elementary school in the state. So we had #1 high school, middle school in Central, and #1 elementary school in McFadden. So congratulations to McFadden as well. Also, I know he has left Thurman Francis as the #4 elementary school in the state. Awesome. We'll do an official recognition. Shanna Groom was announced. She is our school nurse health services director. She was announced as our school nurse admin of the year for the entire state of Tennessee. Tim Pedigo was the TSSAA principal of the year. Now let's talk about academic performance, because that's truly where it matters. Our district graduation rate, this was all released today, so anybody can go to the state website and see it. Our district graduation rate is 97.2%. That is a big deal. We are normally above 95, but 97 we believe is a new record for our school system. District performance starts to be released today as well. So I want to just read quickly. What we always talk about is TVOS growth. Achievement is one measure, and those are the percent of kids you have that meet a certain target. But for us, we talk about as a district that we expect kids to grow. And so this is what growth actually is. TVOS demonstrates where students perform academically at a single point in time, but growth represents not all students start at the same place in their learning trajectory, but every student should grow and learn throughout the school year. That is extremely important for us because not every kid, and actually the majority of our students, are not with us kindergarten through 12th grade. They move in either from Murfreesboro City, they move in because of the amazing growth that we have in this school system. We can't control where kids enter our school system, but we can control what happens every year that they're with us. And so TVOS actually talks about what your impact is, and this is compared to every student, school, and district in the entire state. Level 1 is your lowest. The state ranks that as significant evidence that students made less growth than expected. 3 is your evidence that students made growth as expected. And then 5, significant evidence that students made more growth than expected. We are traditionally a level 5. We are a level 5 school system again, which is the highest you can be. So we absolutely are proud of being the highest growth district that you can be. But it's beyond just that. We are a level 5 district with all subjects combined. We're also a level 5 district for math. We're a level 5 district for English. We're a level 5 district for science. We're a level 5 district for social studies. So overall level 5, every individual subject to level 5. To give you a trajectory of what we're doing as a school system, in 21-22, 19 of our schools were a level 5. 22-23, 26 of our schools were a level 5, and then this year, 32 of our 48 schools that actually give a test are a level 5 school system. Schools. And I hope that this is the soundbite the news picks out, even though I have a feeling they won't. It's an honor daily to serve and lead this amazing school system. The performance of our students continues to shine, and that I want to thank our school principals. 25% of student achievement in the school is based on the level of effectiveness of the school leadership. Our teachers, they have the greatest impact on student achievement in the school building. Our staff, whether they're working with students, supporting our operations, ensuring success, all the different things that go on to make our school system work. Our contractors, whether they're our bus drivers getting them to school or our substitute teachers who have to help fill in when a teacher's not there. Our school board, thank you all for the support. Even though we all don't agree, we have an absolutely amazing school system that we all should be extremely proud of. Our parents, because they make the greatest impact on student achievement. And then ultimately our students, and the best thing that I know to say to them is thank you, you all perform. And that's what we expect. You come to school, even though if the lessons aren't the best and you're bored, you still perform each and every day. So thank you all, and it's definitely a reason to celebrate.
That is fantastic news. I am so proud to be the board chair for the greatest school system in the state of Tennessee, but it starts at the top.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Sullivan, you're doing a tremendous job leading this district.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. No speech.
Yeah.
Got tears, but no speech. That's happened more the last 6 months, but here we go. Thank you.
I will entertain.
Wait, we cannot leave yet. I just want to say that, you don't know this, Claire, but we have something special for you for your birthday.
My birthday's passed.
I know. And I wanted to make sure that we celebrated your birthday. I don't know what the card was.
I've got them down here. Down here. Sorry,
It's
it's been a busy
I don't know
meeting.
if all the board members signed it or not. Please sign it. But I will invite the staff and the board members for some cake afterwards. And so I just want to say happy birthday to Ms. Maxwell.
This is also Miss Rosales' birthday, so both of our
Yes, it is, and
birthdays.
I got my own card, don't worry. I made sure there were 2 cards, one for me and one for Ms. Maxwell.
There are also some cards down here that need to be signed by the board for Smyrna Ready Mix and Dow Smith, to thank them. So if nothing is...
Move to adjourn.
Move, yes, Mr. We have executive session.
Executive session.
Don't schedule off.
Are we still? We executive? Okay.
We adjourn? Okay.
Adjourn.